Well over a century ago, the great educationalist John Dewey put it best when he said, "If we teach today's students the way we taught yesterday's, we will rob them of tomorrow." Now, never has that observation been more relevant than it is today. And having spent over 15 years working with educators and policymakers around the world, getting a sense of the latest thinking around how we make sure our educational systems are future fit and that we're equipping students to be future fit, one of the great frustrations I often find, and if you're a school leader, I bet you've sensed this same frustration, is how do you get this thinking about what education could be to a grassroots level? How do we make sure we start enacting change in classrooms around the world? Because that's where the change really matters. And one of the reasons I've created this new curriculum is to do just that. Called Teaching for Tomorrow. This is a curriculum designed to be run by schools for school or college teaching staff. There are 4 sessions, they're about 1 hour each. And the idea is to, give a snapshot of the best thinking around the globe right now around what the future of education could be, and then look at how that can be applied at a school level. The first session in this program is a session that looks at the whole notion of what is coming next. What are the 5 mega trends that we cannot afford to ignore? Things like robotics and artificial intelligence and the whole notion of how society is going to hang together, how that's about to change. And the reality is we're going to see more change in the next 2 decades than we saw happen in 2 centuries of the Industrial Revolution. So the scope of change is massive. We've got to have our heads around it. The second session then looks at this whole question of what are some of the areas of vulnerability? Where are the capability gaps right now where our students aren't necessarily equipped to flourish in that world of tomorrow? These are things like self-direction and tenacity and originality and acuity or discernment. The third session looks at the whole question of how we need to change. What are some of the fundamental paradigm shifts we as educators need to make if we're going to ensure that we are future fit? Things like shifting from content delivery to capability building, from expounding learning to experiencing learning, from a role focus to a relationship focus, and from self-esteem to self-efficacy. In other words, how do we build mastery in students? Now, that third session is probably the most confronting but the most important, because it really does force us to hold a mirror up and think, how do we need to adapt and evolve as educators and as systems of education if we're going to be ready for the future? The fourth session looks at this whole question of how do we make change stick? How do we make agility, adaptability, just what we do as educators, part of the DNA? We address some of the common roadblocks, the things that stop change occurring in school systems, and look at how we can get around those. Each of these 1 hour sessions comes with full facilitator notes so that someone at a local level in the school or the college can be the point person, can be the person who runs the session, who can guide the discussion, who can look at how this gets implemented at a local level. It also comes with printable worksheets so that there's a really rich learning experience. And most of the schools and colleges who are using this are using it over the course of a year. So they'll do 1 per term or semester, and each of the sessions build sequentially on each other. It's a plug and play program. In other words, you can run it locally at your level, at your own pace, and look at how this gets implemented in your own context.
You cannot outrun the future if you don't see it coming. And the great challenge so many of us face is we get so focused on the urgent, on the immediate, particularly as educators, but sometimes hard to sort of zoom out and look at, well, what are the things that are coming next? Most of us still teach the way we were taught. And the big thing you're likely to lose as we make this shift from content delivery to capability building, as we change the role of the teacher, the role of classrooms, the goal of learning, the thing you're likely to lose most is something that starts with C. Every teacher's great fear is to lose control. We need to get more and more comfortable with that, because that is going to be a hallmark of classrooms in the future, and it's terrifying, but it's necessary.
A professor from the education faculty at University of California, Mark Warschauer, puts it well when he said, "Our great challenge is to help students aim further ahead of a faster moving target. However, the challenge we've got is that we are often an education system stuck looking in the rear view mirror." Now, that is such a timely reminder for all of us that now is the time for transformation, for change, not just to talk about it, but to make change happen within education. Not just so that we're engaging today's students, but so that we're equipping them for tomorrow.